What's up YouTube? My name is Amisbro. For this video we are going to be covering the game known as Steins Gate for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, and PC. This version is published by P-Cube. The PC version is published by a company called Just USA, who's actually pretty well known as in the visual novel realm. In the voice acting category, this game has a very well-known voice actor. His name is Mamoru Miyano. This is, by the way, his CD Frontier, which I got not that long ago. He was the voice of Tamaki Suo in Northern High School Host Club, Sadaruki Fushimi in K Project, Rin Matsuoka in the Free series, and he voices the lead character here, known as Rintaro Okabe, who goes by the pseudonym Kiyoma Hyodin, or Hyodin, how you want to pronounce that. Anyway, let's talk about the actual game. The game is interesting because of its story. Now, its story deals with this. If you could go in the past and change things, knowing that your future might be altered, would you do it? That is the question we answer here. The idea is that Rintaro, along with his friend Mayuri Shina and another friend of theirs named Hitoru Daru Hashida, form something called the Future Gadget Club. Now this club, or lab rather, this lab makes gadgets. But the thing is, these things called the future gadgets, to knowledge, have never really been sold to anybody. They're just goofy gimmicks that they actually made for each other. But they've never really had any substance. Well, one day, Rintaro and Mayuri decide they're going to go see a presentation on time travel. This is given by a professor who, for lack of a better term, is full of a lot of hot air. And not just because of his weight problem he apparently is had. But apparently, Rintaro can smell some bullshit. When he decides he's going to call out the professor, what ends up happening is a confrontation. He gets thrown out and all hell breaks loose. Not the least of which is a murder takes place on this day. The woman in question that gets murdered excuse me, is named Kurusu Makise, M-A-K-I-S-E. How she was murdered and who did it is unknown. But what we do know is her body was found on this day. That's a bit of a problem because it causes some things to happen in a timeline. Well, what's happening later is Rintaro decides he needs to call Daru or send him a message. Well, he sends him the message, but something very odd happens. The timeline becomes altered. And Akihabara, where they were, becomes nothing more than a deserted ghost town. The story of Steins Gate has begun. That is just your prologue, and just your brief overview of the prologue. The next 10, maybe 11 chapters, depending on how you play it, tell the story of Okabe and company as they try to understand what in the hell actually happened and how potentially to fix it. This becomes even more important later in the game when a key character has a bit of a rough patch. a severe rough patch. I won't tell you who and I won't tell you how. But let's just say reliving Groundhog's Day is never a fun thing to do. And unfortunately, Okabe has to learn the hard way on how to do it. Now, this game is a visual novel. So what that means is you're reading a lot. And you're seeing a lot of cutscenes and CGs. To actually get the Platinum Trophy, you have to uncover all of the CGs. To do that, you have to play through the game at least twice. Maybe less if you save at a key point in the game. That key point, in case you're interested, is Chapter 4. Why? Because the choices you make there will forever alter the path in which you're taking for the rest of the game. See, the game has 10 chapters. 11 if you take a true ending. I won't tell you what these endings are or how you get to them, but I will tell you that it involves a phone. More specifically, the flip phone that Okabe carries with him. Because you see, he gets phone calls and he gets mails through them. And this game is kind of tricky on how it works. See, in most visual novels and otome games, the choices you make are given through a visual text box that you actively can see. In this game, all the triggers and all the flags basically that you have to hit for a certain ending are done through Rintaro's phone. And that's the key. The way you answer the questions or the emails, or whether you choose to answer or ignore the phone calls and emails, determines what path you go on. It is legitimately one of the trickiest visual novels to get the ending you want on. Because unless you know what you're looking for, it's hard. It's also hard, especially in chapter, 6, when you have to make certain phone calls in both routes. Because you see, until you accomplish one of the endings, the game doesn't help you. You have to visually know what you're looking for. When you accomplish one of the endings, the game does help you. It'll literally put a red box next to trigger words that you need to look for when you need to give somebody a phone call or send an email. Those are important to know when you need to make the message and to guide you through your routes. So yes, the game will become easier once you complete the first playthrough, or at least get one of the endings. What ending? Well, if you were to go in order, you would be able to get the first ending around the midway point. I won't tell you whose, I just will tell you that, and then go from there. To get the true ending, you have to answer everything perfectly. And this game has one of the most notoriously long endings for a true ending. Because, do you remember how I said there was about 10 to 11? Well, if you're going for the true ending, it's 11. But there's no real choice you have to make there. It's just you going through it. Also, in order to score the Platinum Trophy in this game, you must accomplish a 100% CG completion. That's easy enough to do, though, if you hit the right trigger words or keywords in the game. So as long as you have followed certain paths, you'll be good on that. It's interesting, though, the higher up you go as far as percentages, because the game gets stingier as to when they give it to you. As far as the CGs that tell the story. Also, the sieges in this game are goofy because they do not go in order. So basically what I'm telling you is all the ones from the prologue, all the ones from chapter 1, all the ones from chapter 2, all the ones from chapter 3, all the ones from chapter 4 are not in order. They're scattered all over the place. You may have one from chapter 10 on page 1, one from chapter 1 of the prologue on page 5. You see what I'm saying? I also noticed, by the way, this game does have a glitch. It's an interesting one too. Apparently, and I've noticed this only with the end chapter of the game, the final chapter, chapter 11. If you have to save your progress in the middle of the chapter and then you load it, come back to load it, it'll actually play whatever the ringtone is that you have in the game, say on your phone. So whatever that is, you'll literally be hearing that for a couple of scenes because something was bugged in the game when they did it. It doesn't really alter the gameplay, it's just a funny little glitch that I found in a game if you actually try it. And yes, it can be replicated. What else? I will tell you this, chapter 7, because of the number of times you have to save and load the game, is one of the longest. Chapter 6 and 7 are the two longest, probably. Chapter 6, because of looking for the trigger words that you have to hit in order to make certain phone calls. Chapter 7, if you're going on the true route, because of how many times you have to save and load the game. Because you have to basically manipulate it so that you're doing certain things to get certain trophies and also to stay on the true path. So that's crucial in the game. What's some other things I want to talk about as far as this game goes? Let's do this. Here's one. If anybody knows me well enough, I love Mamoru Miyano as a voice actor. I think he is one of the best in the business right now, to be perfectly honest with you. However, when there were times when I thought that his character should have been a bit more sentimental and sensitive, he goes into his Kyoma character, mad scientist character, and kind of jolts you and takes you out of it. So, from that respect, and it's not like he's a dummy. He's been around the block as far as voice acting for animes and video games even. And especially even say, I don't know, Kingdom Hearts. But even he could have looked at the script and gone, I don't think the character would have acted this way in this particular point because it wouldn't seem appropriate. But it's his mad scientist gimmick, and yes, I can understand that. What's some other things I want to talk about with this game? They use some colorful language in this game. Now, it is rated M for mature, obviously, but they use terms like motherfucker. They also talk about, I think they at times talked about people being virgins and shit in the game. It's actually it's actually one of the more vulgar games I think I've ever played. Hell, remember I played Virtue's Last Reward. That game isn't even that vulgar, I don't think, if I remember correctly. It's pretty bad off, but it wasn't that bad. Holy shit. Also, I should also tell you this, while I'm thinking of it. The end credits in the game, they're not translated. They were kept in Japanese strictly. Like, there is no... sometimes when a game gets translated over here, they may sometimes do, like, the Japanese credits, and then they'll do, like, an English version of them. No, in this game, it's strictly Japanese credits. That's not a big thing, but it's something I need to point out to you if you go to play this game. Maybe that's because I was playing with the Japanese voice acting. I don't know, but yeah, the end credits were strictly in Japanese, which was just weird. Oh, here's one. Excuse me. Can we talk about the way they did things with this game? Because if you play a visual novel like, say, Virtue's Last Reward or 999 or I don't know if the Hakuoki games were this way, but generally speaking, what you'll have is you'll have the scenes where there's you off screen basically talking to whoever the character is on the screen. And nothing really happens in the background. Nothing really cool can happen, right? Well, in this game, they do something kind of interesting. They sometimes will take the camera and they'll pan it around. Like, I'll give you an example. In the beginning of the game, at one point when you have to go up a set of stairs, the camera literally will zoom out and then make a left as, well, this is my right, but it would be your left, going up the staircase. That was actually pretty cool. And of course, when you get to meet the different characters in the game, you do get attached to them. And there's a lot of endings that I got kind of emotional on. I'm not gonna lie to you. One of them, of course, was one of the endings of the really main characters in the game, Mayuri. And then, of course, there was also a really interesting ending with a Miko in the game, a Shrine Maiden. Well, I have to be careful saying that because it's a guy. Yeah. Welcome to Japan, everyone. Anyway, I thought I would warn you about that just in case some of you play the game, meet the character, and go, huh? So let's give this game a kind of a quick grade and review. Okay? And I know this is a weird review because I'm not really going as in-depth as I usually do, but here's the thing. It's hard to really talk about the game without spoiling too much. You get what I'm saying? Because it's a visual novel, and I want you to experience it for yourself. I want you to experience all the events from prologue to end. And I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. Because I actually did. Despite some issues I had with the main character and the way he represented certain scenes, it was still one of the best games I have played. And if you're looking to get the plat, if you're going hardcore after it, you could probably do it, I'd say a week. Maybe a little less. I say that because of the battery life of a PlayStation Vita. You may be able to get through a couple of chapters on the first playthrough, no problem. The second playthrough will be easier though because you can use the start button to speed through things and then hit the circle button to stop it when you need it. But just be careful one way or the other. You get what I'm saying? I like the graphic style they used in this game. It wasn't like, okay, visual novels are known for having really cartoony style characters, but that's the way anime is generally. You have like these really bubbly, really cartoony looking characters, and so you kind of get what they're going for with the game. Here, they drew the characters a bit differently so that yeah, it's still an anime style game, but the style doesn't scream at you that it's an anime style game. It screams at you that it could be something a bit more real. A couple other things real quick. The game has 189 terms they use. Now, the terms are called tips. The thing is, the tips don't actually help you with the game. What the tips are is, there's a big old glossary in the game. There's 189 of these terms that are put in red. And some of these terms are fictional, completely made up for the game. However, some terms apparently are real. Some are scientific terms. Some deal with potentially current events. One is really weird if you're like into conspiracy theories about who controls the country and who controls like the world governments and shit. So in that respect, it's really freaky. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't put in brackets fictional. Think about that for a second. So for you conspiracy theorists that worry about that stuff, yeah, apparently the game designers were really big on that stuff and decided to incorporate it into the game terminology. So that's something to be looking out for in the game. I actually do like the music in the game, especially towards the ends when you're getting ready for like the really emotional scenes, like they knew what the hell they were doing. So that really helps. The character development, for the most part, when you start from the beginning and you go towards the end, yeah, you really start connecting with the characters. At times you will get taken out because of the fact that the way Rintaro acts when he goes into his mad scientist character. But that's just Mamo being Mamo. And for those of us who know Miyano as a voice actor, he's a bit of an oddball. But he's our lovable oddball. On the whole, where do we rate this game? Well, let me think for a second. Voice acting, now I mentioned just Mamo, but everybody does, I think, a very good job of playing their roles as characters. I didn't name all the characters because I want you to discover them for yourself, just so you know. I love the art direction, and I do like that they make you care about the characters through all the chapters. From beginning to end, you will get a connection with all of them. My only gripe, that last chapter takes forever to finish. But it's worth it in the end for the twist and for the platinum. So, on a scale of, say, 1 to 10, how about we give this game, how about an 8? I only give it an 8 for this reason. If you're a straight-up otaku that likes these styles of games, it's almost going to be perfect for you, probably. I say an 8 because for some people that may not be that big into this style of game, I'm giving it as high a praise as possible because I want you to understand why, for people like me and other friends of mine, this is one of my favorite genres at this time, the visual novel and otome game. Which, speaking of, two of the next ones we're going to be doing are Code Realize and Norn 9 Varukamens. And that one has 24 endings. So, until next time, my friends, you all have a great Friday, and I will talk to you all later. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.